On tonight's show, we have Realtor and entrepreneur Justin Harper. And now for your host, KoolKard. What's happening, people? Thank you so much for tuning in once again. It's your boy KoolKard. Kickin It with KoolKard, episode 36. Hey, we're back again to bring you that value. Last week, we had Whitney Ricketts. She is a dancer. She's an entrepreneur. She has her candle line. It's called Wit's Signature Tings. Check her out on Instagram. It's wit.signature-tings, Tings. You know, got that Jamaican ting going on. Check her out. She's selling candles. She makes them by hand. So go support small business. You know, that's what we're here for, to support, provide value. I just want to bring you that value every single week with my guests, man. I have some phenomenal guests coming on, and they're very transparent with what they're doing, their successes, their breakthroughs, their pitfalls, all of that. So I hope you just pay attention, share it. Hey, and if you're new to the show and you have not subscribed, I invite you to do so you can continue to get this value that I'm bringing to you, because I can't do it without you, but I'm doing it for you. All right. But this week, we're going to be talking real estate. And somebody might say, hey, well, real estate, is it booming in the pandemic? Well, actually, yes. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I got a real estate vet, been knowing him for a long time. I do know this gentleman. I can call him my brother. I can't call everybody my brother because I don't know everybody that I bring on. But this guy, been knowing him for a long time, has been doing his thing. So we're going to get into his life, you know, kind of break down some things that he's doing and just kind of give you that game on real estate from start to finish. So just want to bring you that game. But first and foremost, got to give him a nice little warm welcome and an intro like I always do all of my guests. So let's bring him on in. His name is Justin Harper. My man, Justin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, when I tell you, that is one heck of an intro. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, man. Absolutely. I couldn't nobody better ask.
Yeah, you know. You knew it was coming. I just had to get around to real estate. Excuse me. You know what I mean?
Got you.
So look, I know you, man, you're a vet. You're a vet in this game. Real estate, 15 years, but you didn't get your start there, right? So kind of give us your background and where you started and, you know, until now.
Oh, man. Well, you go way back. Going through the electrical apprenticeship program.
Okay.
And I went through that program, and probably about 5 years into it, I was approached by a friend of mine. And he said, hey, have you ever thought about doing mortgage loans? And I said, no. And he says, okay, well, I got an opportunity. Somebody invited me to go to a seminar. Mm-hmm. Come with me. And I said, okay. So I was young, and I ended up going down there, and I ended up signing on, and he didn't.
Wow.
And so 3-4 years into it, I did it in 2003, mm-hmm. and I went through the entire boom. And when I tell you, I absolutely dislike doing mortgage loans.
Oh, wow. Why?
Because it was just too much back and forth, and you got to fight for your money on the back end. And that's when they were kind of doing things very weird.
Yeah. Before the crash.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just ended up getting out of it. And so then one thing that I always loved was looking at houses. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I was talking to my mother one day, and she just looked at me and she said, why don't you just do real estate instead of going back and forth and being stressed out about numbers and loans and this? So I thought about it, and I said, you know what? Why not? And so I got into it, and the rest is history. After that, man, I just been grinding and trying to brand and trying to just make a career. And
well, not trying.
Grace of God.
You're doing it. Not trying. 15 years later, brother, you doing it. You ain't trying nothing.
I like to be modest about what I do, but
hey,
God's been good.
I want to pull something from that though. See, you've been on the loan side, and people always hear the horror stories about buyers going through hell with the lender. So now you've seen that side of it. So now when you're working with buyers, you can, it's illegal to kind of talk loans and all that stuff with them because you're not the loan, you're not the loan officer. But you can have more compassion and kind of understand what they're going through and kind of coach them a little bit to get them through that process because you've been there. You've been the guy putting them through hell, not because you wanted to, because the underwriter put them through hell, right?
Absolutely. It helps with all three of the careers because keep in mind I did construction.
That's right.
I have a background on building the home.
Yes.
I have a background on underwriting the loan for a home, and I have the background on purchasing the home.
Right.
So I'm kind of like a one-stop shop when it comes to the game because a lot of people especially in the lending industry, they don't like to explain everything about the loan
at all.
And so for me, it helps because I have that background that I'm able to kind of be that back end to the information.
Right.
Now, I always start, this is not my area of expertise, although I have a background in mortgage lending, but I don't practice it. Yeah. So I'll do my best to try to explain what certain things mean in terms of verbiage.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing with lending is that a lot of the clients or I should say loan officers, they like to paraphrase everything. Mm-hmm. They like to just give you an overview. But a lot of people who are first-time home buyers, they're not going to know what conforming loan limits are. They're not going to know what DTI is. They're not going to know all of these different things that we who actually practice this field know. Yeah. So it makes it difficult for them when they're trying to understand it during the loan process. You don't make large deposits. Right. And they're like, why? If I get $5,000, why can't I deposit it into my account? Right. No. You can't do that, especially based on the type of loan program that you're on. So it can be a little difficult. I always tell my clients from start to finish, listen, real estate can be a lot of fun. It's the people that make it difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just tell them, pay attention and we'll get you over the hump.
Right. All right, so for you, so your first year in, what was that experience like, and what are some tips you can give to newbies coming in the game? Like, what should they, focus on their first year? Because the first year is the hardest. You're trying to get over the hump. You're trying to get a couple sales under your belt or some rentals. Like, give some game.
One thing that I took with me when I got in real estate my first year is actually my mother is my biggest support factor. And she told me, she said, Justin, she said, don't worry about making the money. Mm-hmm. Worry about educating yourself first.
Okay.
So the first year, I took the time to educate myself. I had a great mentor, and I tell you, I live by this person to this day, and I follow a lot of his tactics in real estate. And one thing he said, dot your I's and cross all your T's. Don't you leave a blank space anywhere on a contract, a listing agreement, or anything, because you ultimately, this is your signature on everything. So your presentation is the bond that you create with your clients. So my first year was fairly easy. It was stressful because you broke, you're coming out of a recession. And you just want to make the money. But I understood it probably when I was probably 5 years into the real estate game. Okay, now I understand, because real estate can be very dangerous if you don't follow the rules. Okay. And you have a lot of other agents that are in the business that don't follow the rules.
Absolutely.
And you can get a lot of trouble. And one of those things is I'm afraid of the law.
Yeah.
afraid to spend money. So when it comes to fines and jail time, you're not going to catch this one standing behind nobody's bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So first year, I always tell any agent, don't worry about the money. As long as you educate yourself properly, you will be successful.
Yeah.
And that's what I thrive on, educating myself so that I can be able to educate my clients in this market, because right now we need it.
Yeah, definitely.
Real estate is getting out of control right now. So you got to know what you're doing, and you got to feel comfortable with someone who knows what they're doing in order to entrust them with your money.
Right.
That's my advice to the first year agent is educate yourself first. So, just take all the classes you have to.
So basically educate yourself so you can instill confidence in the client, so the confidence can lead to other clients, because once they have confidence in you and they trust you, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their neighbor, they're going to tell their family, and there's the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
that's the biggest thing. Number one factor.
And
gain the trust,
right?
Absolutely.
So as far as, okay, so for you, what did you find easier? Was it getting buyers or getting someone to allow you to sell their home for them?
Well, actually, I started off doing a bunch of rentals.
Okay.
I felt like because the comfort level was just turning the key and opening the door, and the house sold itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the very beginning, when I started, we had an overabundance of agents. I think at the time I started, there was probably 19,000 agents that were licensed in the city of Las Vegas.
Hey.
And so we were all competing for about 8,000 homes.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy.
I focused those first couple of years on the buyers.
Okay.
Because it was easy for me. I felt comfortable taking the buyer out and opening the door. And I always looked at like $1 Million Listing, because, you know, those are my favorite shows. And they would walk in the door and they would, hey, you've got 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, you know, and 2,200 square foot. And then I had to realize, like, I don't really need to sell the property because, number one, it's written right in front of you.
Yeah.
And if you kind of educate them prior to, they walk into their property knowing exactly
what's in there, yeah.
what it is. So in the back of their mind, they just got to make sure that they love the kitchen and they love the bathroom, they love the master bedroom, they love the living space. Backyard was one of the biggest things, because in Las Vegas, the best thing to have in 115-degree weather is a swimming pool. So,
right.
One thing that always sold. So I usually would open the door, walk in, and they go run amok. They just look around and, oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh, they could tell me right away, oh, I need to fix this, or I need to replace this. Or so I found it easier because I didn't have to do very much as far as the actual buyer side of it. It was the listing side that I was always afraid of, because everyone always says, you know, when it comes to listings, you know, the sellers are always interviewing 2, 3, 4 agents at a time. And they want to make sure that they're getting the best deal possible, you know, for them.
Right.
So I was always nervous about sitting in front of somebody and interviewing them about selling their home. And then the one question they always said to me was, well, what can you do that sets you aside from the rest?
Right.
And I always just told them my motto was trust, honesty, and integrity. That's what's going to sell this home.
That's dope. So you would say to a newbie, you would recommend start out doing rentals, kind of get your feet wet, you know, get that repetition going, work your way into, and if buyers do come before the rentals, good, cool. But the rentals are the easiest starting point, right? And kind of get your feet wet, get the repetition, and getting used to, you know, kind of getting in your groove.
It helps.
Yeah.
It does help, because turning the key to a buyer or rental it's the same thing.
Okay.
The house is gonna sell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I always say dive in head first and make your money.
Right.
But rentals, never really paid a lot, but you get 10 of them a month at $300 a pop. Hey,
right,
that's $3,000 for the month.
Right.
The average household lives off $3,500 a month, so I'd say that's a pretty good deal if you can start off that way. So it just makes it easier. But no, I always say don't block your blessing. If a seller or a listing comes in, or a buyer comes in, by all means, if you educate yourself, you'll know how to handle that client when they come to you.
Okay. Now, what would you say would be the easiest way outside of like word of mouth and just marketing yourself? What would be the easiest way to get new clients without buying leads? And then second part of that question is, if they have to buy leads, what lead generator would you recommend? Your personal preference.
My thing is it only takes one client to help spread the word. And I always say to generate additional clientele, stay in front of the existing clients that you have.
Okay.
Find birthdays, send them Christmas cards, send them Thanksgiving turkeys, or, sweet potato pies or something to that nature. But I always found it better to find a brokerage that was willing to brand you and invest in you.
Okay.
So many of us go out because we're told, buy leads and, spend X amount of money per month because it's a write-off at the end of the year. But those leads didn't pan out for me. So, here in the area that I live, I'm born and raised here. So for me, it helped the fact that I was known in the community. I was able to put my best foot forward, go to the different, events, pass out my business cards. And a lot of times, if you develop what we call an elevator speech, that's knocking the ball out of the park right there. Just to engage in conversation. Hey, what's your market like? Okay. Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Hey, every market is different. Let's have a conversation. Here's my card, and give me a call. Or as a matter of fact, let me take your number. Let me take you to lunch. Right. And a lot of times, people in food is the biggest seller. Oh, okay. Do you eat sushi?
Ain't nobody turning down no meal.
You know what I'm saying? So that was the way that I kind of approached it. I did purchase leads from Zillow and all these different other lead generation programs, but I never found success in it. But I've got with a brokerage that actually spent the money, invested into me, and they sent the leads to me. Okay. And then it was something about that just generated this abundance of people that just rang my phone. Okay. I put a sign in my yard, or sometimes with properties, when they kind of go on the market, I would send out a flyer. Hey, just listed. Or if it's sold in less than 24 hours, I send out another flyer that say, hey, just sold less than 24 hours. Right. And then I would specifically send them to the homeowners that were in the same square footage as the one that I just listed. Now, they wouldn't generally go out to the entire subdivision, but I focused on that particular model because that's the model that was more popular. Right. So there's a ton of ways that as an agent that you can generate those leads, but the bottom line is get with a brokerage that's willing to brand you. Yeah. And there's a ton of them that are out there.
I was going to ask you that. How do you decide on a broker? Because there's so many, and they're all selling to try to get you in there.
You know what? Interview. That was the one thing that they told me in real estate school is interview your brokerage. Find out what they can do for you. Okay. Don't let them just feed you a bedtime story. Dig deep to your research.
Okay.
That's what they'll do. They'll all feed you this bedtime story of what they can do, and then they sign you on, take your beginning fee or whatever they want to call
Right.
it, and then you don't hear from the broker anymore.
Now you're just a number. Yeah.
Now you're just part of the number,
you
and then you go to ask questions, and they don't have time for it. And it's like, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
You know?
Right. You should have broker support, especially for a first year person. Like, there should be broker support. Be able to call them, and they'll take their time, not rush you off the phone, and kind of go through the questions one by one and answer them thoroughly. You know what I mean?
Or at least have somebody that's their counterpart, that if they're unavailable, that you can go to that person, and that person is just as knowledgeable as the broker.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I will have to say I've been very fortunate to be with the brokerages that I've had that had an open door policy.
Okay.
I've been with 3 brokerages, and with those 3 brokerages, I always had an open door policy. That's why I stayed with them for so long, because everything that I needed, I could go to their broker, or I could go to someone in that office, and I say, hey, what would you do in this scenario? Right. And they would actually stop what they were doing, and they would show me. Okay. And so over the years, I've adopted that same mindset with new agents. When they come into the business, you know what? I want to see you flourish. I want to see you soar in this market. So let me help you. Yeah. I'm not here to take your money, because I'm fair. I'm going to make the money regardless. Right. You know what I mean? Right. But if it's about helping a fellow agent, because we take an oath, to help our fellow agents when they're in need. Yeah. Then that's what I'm here for. So that's the one thing that I will always say: find a brokerage, interview that brokerage, write down a book of questions. And what will happen is when you ask those questions, if that broker has the time to answer them, that's a broker that has patience to work with you. Yeah. Because it's just like a child who's starting to drive for the very first time. You put that child in the car, you gonna be nervous as I don't know what. You don't want them to hit no curb, especially got them good rims. Them Ferragamo, what they got, them Forgiato rims. Right. You don't want to break them rims. So, people just have to have patience. I have a couple of friends that just got their licensing now, and I tell her all the time, I says, you know what? Call and ask your questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Text it to me, email it to me, but don't you dare go out there and do anything unless you get that answer, because that can cost you in the end. Yeah. So absolutely. You just have to find a good agency that's going to offer you broker support. Read the reviews on the agency. Read the reviews that the clients put on the website that gives, that tells them whether or not the broker was attentive to the need, or the agent of the broker was attentive to the need. So as agents, you just have to do your research.
All right. So another question for you. Now, you got your clients. Let's talk about managing them, juggling these clients. And I've been told there's a rule of thumb. When you're showing buyers, and I know some agents, they'll show 30 homes, whatever, and they don't think twice about it. But I've heard some brokers and realtors say that, I show a total of 8. And they got to make a decision. I'm not going to show 20 homes, you run me around, and then you tell me, well, we're going to hold off for 6 months. You know what I mean? So what's your take on that? Like, is there a rule of thumb for you? Like, I'm only going to show 8 to 10, and you should know what you want by then? Or how does that work for you?
Normally, let me tell you, it takes me one time to go out with that buyer. And the buyer is going to tell you exactly what they're looking for in that first outing with them. You can take them to look at look at 4 or 5 different garbage homes. Mm-hmm. And they'll go through each one of those, and they'll tell you, oh, this living room is too small. Oh, this kitchen is horrible. Oh, this bathroom doesn't have an extra sink. They're literally in that showing. They're telling you exactly what they want. Yeah. So therefore, on the next outing, you should have been able to pay attention to detail as to what that client wants. So on the next outing, you're taking them to see specific properties that they are looking for. Because keep in mind, when you bring in a buyer, you don't know anything about that buyer. If they're not a personal friend, or if they're
Right.
just simply a referral, you don't know anything about them. So to tell you, okay, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I get clients that'll say, do you have properties that are 3-bedroom, 2 baths? I'll say, oh yeah. Okay, well, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, do you know a square footage? No, I don't know a square footage. So then if I take you to look at a 1,300 square foot house, and you go in and you're automatically going to say, oh, this is too small.
Right.
Then I know a 1,300 square foot house is not big enough for you. So I'm going to take you out. I might take you to look at 1,500 to 1,600 square feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So pay attention to detail. And I'm telling you, if you stay ahead of your buyer at all times, they will be loyal to you. They will stay with you, just because they don't have to keep telling you over and over what they want.
Okay.
Take your note. I write little notes. I have my MLS sheets that I take with me, and I keep a pen in my pocket all the time. And when I go into a house, and the minute they say something negative, I'm writing it down on the spot. I want them to know that I'm writing it and telling them
Right.
that I'm taking notes, but I'm writing down what the do's and the don'ts are of this specific of what you're looking for. And then I will take that back home and I'll research it. And then I will change up their search, and I will send them specifically what they asked for, and omit what they did not like. So
right.
That's how I kind of manage my buyers. It doesn't take me too long to find a house for a buyer. And a lot of times people say I'm kind of on the premier side. I'll say, I won't use the word bougie, but I'll say the premier side. So I'm not going to live in it. I'm not going to expect my client to. So
right.
Generally that has worked for me. So when it's all said and done, I usually have a one and done. Take you out the first time, but that second go around, it's a one and done after that. They're like, oh, you want this one? I'm writing the offer. I'm writing it conducive to the buyer's need, but not as the word we want to use, insulting to the seller.
Right.
And normally we're in contract the next day, or at least within the next 48 hours.
So how many clients do you normally take on at one time? Is there too many? And how do you juggle? How do you manage multiple clients, say like 8 clients at one time, and still have a life? How do you do that?
Oh man, because not everybody's going to go out and do a showing at the same time. So it's about scheduling.
Okay.
I schedule on an average probably 2 to 3 clients in one day.
Okay.
If I start at 10 a.m., I can look at 6 houses in 2 hours.
Okay.
Wow. So I always say maybe every 3 hours I'll set an appointment. But I can usually be done based on the client schedule. Sometimes I'm done by 4:30, sometimes I'm done by 5. Or if a client has to show after 5, then my last client is usually after 5 o'clock, between 5 and 7.
Wow.
So I've juggled. I've had, oh man, I can't even count. But no, I don't turn any clients away, to be honest with you. There's been times where I may have had a client that was out of state, that only had a certain amount of time that they were going to be in town, and depending on that dollar amount that they're spending,
right,
I'll juggle around my time. But for the most part, my schedule is, I've been doing it so long that I kind of have my schedule down packed.
Okay.
I have my hours, I have my lunch hour. Like I'm very calculated when it comes to time.
Okay.
I've had right now, I think in my sphere of influence, I'm working with about 400 leads, and I have probably 12 clients that I'm working with as we speak.
Wow. That's a question I wanted to ask you too. And I want to talk about this whole COVID thing. Like a lot of people, well, I won't say a lot of people, but some people think that, well, it's a bad time. They don't want to make a move, but the interest rates are so low. It's actually a buyer's market. So my question to you is, how have you been able to thrive during this time? And what do you say to those people who, maybe have cold feet, don't really know that this is a great opportunity for them right now?
Right. Well, you know, the law of economics says everything happens in a cycle. So in that cycle, the best time to always buy when homes are at an all-time low is during a natural disaster or a pandemic or an economic recession. So with this pandemic, what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of people did not necessarily lose their jobs. A lot of people just stayed home and worked from home. So the paycheck never stopped.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, with the clientele base that I had, a lot of them just worked from home.
Yeah.
And whether you work from home or in an office, hey, that deposit still is the same. You still gotta.
It's even hitting harder because now you saving on gas, eating out,
clothes.
The kids might be there with you, so you
ain't got no daycare. Exactly. So a lot of people were able to still buy during the pandemic, and because of it, basically in this pandemic, it was also an economic recession.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the interest rate dropped.
Yep.
It made it conducive for the buyer to actually get a loan.
Right.
You know, more down payment assistance program popped up out of nowhere.
I know.
Like, where did they come from? You know? So I was able to just maintain. Actually, my business picked up more than it has in a regular market.
Wow.
And it shocked me. You know what I'm saying? But,
wow.
You know, I pushed forward. I stayed ahead of my client. I reached out to a lot of the old clients, just, you know, how they were doing.
Right.
You know, sometimes people will just sign on or one thing about communicating with your client is you can sell them a house a year prior to and don't have anything to say to them for a whole year, but that one phone call during a time of bereavement or a time of need or something is going on with them personally, and they'll be like, oh my God, you called at the right time. We were thinking about selling our house. And that starts the whole conversation like,
right.
Well, I'm your guy. What can I do to help you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So just with the pandemic, I can't say nothing. God was just good. God was good. You know,
is. Is.
God good. Man.
You got 12 clients right now. God is good.
Man. I sometimes I have to sit back and I have to look at what's in front of me and just say, you know what, it's nothing but favor.
Right. Absolutely.
That's it. You know, but I think my integrity and just being a more humble person is what has me in this place right now, to where people just surround themselves with me. They get comfortable, and I'm very vulnerable, and I can tend to be very transparent. And one thing a lot of clients like, they like you to be real with them.
Yeah.
Tell them straight from the hip.
Yeah.
This house is garbage. Don't buy it. You know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what has just kept me moving. Just being transparent, just being real, just keeping my focus and just being able to communicate with that client, letting them know that, you know what, this is okay. And right now, know your market. Right now, this is the best time to buy.
Right.
The market has dropped in Las Vegas a little over 30% in 1 year.
Wow.
In the pandemic,
yep.
You made it for the little guy to buy.
Yep.
You know?
Everybody can do something right now.
New home builders are popping up all over the city, giving deals, closing calls, down payment assistance. Like they practically here, take the house,
right.
You know? So it makes it easy. I haven't even had to go out too much to door knock. I think I was in McDonald's, and I had on a shirt that said, ask me how your market is. And a guy tapped me on the shoulder. He says, are you a real estate agent? And I said, yes, I am. He says, do you have a card? I said, yeah. I gave him a card, and I listed his house 2 weeks later.
Wow.
From a shirt.
Wow.
I met a client one time. I kid you not. I met a client driving down the street, and I pulled into a Walgreens, and I had placards on my car. He made a U-turn in the middle of the street to catch me.
That's God, man. Favor on that boy. Favor on you, man.
It just has been a very natural occurrence for me.
Yeah.
People just
but you treat people right, though. The thing is, you're educated. You know your stuff. You treat people right. You keep their best interest, at heart. Like, yeah, that's the way it works, man. That's the way.
Absolutely.
What are some of the okay? What about buyers who are on the fence? Like, I don't know. Sometimes the home buying process scares people and it scares them off, so they get cold feet. And like I said, you could show them 8 houses, and then they're like, "Oh, well, we're just gonna wait 6 months." How do you combat that? How do you reel them back in?
Again, stay ahead of the client. You know what I mean? Sometimes people just don't know, and that's where that education piece comes from. You have to be able to let them know. Once they're comfortable with you, you can pretty much tell your client the moon is purple, and they'll believe it. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but it's the truth. You have those clients that are so scared because they're looking at what happened during the recession period and how people lost their homes. And then you just have to tell them, you go back in and you say, you know what, the law of economics says things happen in a cycle. So at some point you buy this house in this market, and 10, 15 years down the line, you might be up, you can sell it off, or do what you need to do. So a lot of the times with those type of clients, like I do have one now that she's just constantly on the fence, and I'm just patient with her. And a lot of buyers want their hands held during the process. So if that means you have to baby them a little bit, pat them on the back and it's gonna be okay, sometimes it's worth it, because at the end of the day, that client is going to refer somebody else to you, and they're going to tell them about their experience.
Right.
The biggest thing is the clients that come to me after they've had another transaction that railroaded them, and I'm coming in and I'm doing damage control.
Right.
So I get a lot of those.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're kicking it into high gear, and now you really got to be delicate with that client.
That's what I was going to ask you too. I was going to ask you about those buyers, potential buyers who have the idea that, man, I want to own a home. My credit's jacked up. I just don't know. I don't think my credit's good enough, so I'm going to wait. Let me work on my credit. But some of them don't even some of them don't know that their credit is up to par for certain types of loans. Like an FHA, go ahead at 585, right?
That's the lowest some lenders will go.
And
absolutely.
Some people don't even know that. I've had people say, man, my credit's like 590. I can't do it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yes, you can. But they don't know.
My biggest approach to that is I'll tell a client, I says, what are you paying rent every month? They'll say, $1,000. And I say, okay, take that $1,000 and times it by 12. What do you get? They'll say $12,000. I said, that's your down payment on your house.
Yep.
And some of them, really, I never thought of it like that.
And after that,
I said, if you rented a house for 5 years at $1,000, that's 60 months.
Right.
That's $60,000 that you've just given away.
Gave away.
And a lot of times, that is what will pique their interest and say, you know what? How about, do you got a lender that I can talk to?
Right. Let me at least try, because
now in their mind, they're like, I'm just giving my money away.
Yep.
And that has always been the best way to approach a buyer, to kind of convert them into, a renter and converting them into a buyer, because now they're looking at what they're spending out in just rents, and then they know they're not getting a return on it.
Absolutely. Just throwing their money away.
They're just throwing their money
away. What about what about different types of loans? Is there a different approach you have to take with buyers who have a FHA or a conventional or a VA?
Well, again, it's about interviewing the client up front.
Mm.
You know, a lot of times with my background in lending, a client can tell me my credit score is a 605 and I only make $3,000 a month, or, you know, I have a high debt, you know, on my credit or whatnot. And I can kind of tell them what to do from there. Okay, well, you're an FHA buyer.
Right.
They tell you, well, I only have about $6,000 in the bank. Okay, well, you're probably a good candidate for down payment assistance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can kind of gauge where the client is going to go. And then one thing I do have is I have a great group of lenders that are on my team that I can call them and tell them exactly what my client is, who they are, what their need is, and they'll already have a loan program set up for them.
Okay.
We'll put together a whole profile for that client, and then we call them and say, hey, let's run your credit.
Right.
Afterward, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But like I said, it goes back to that educational piece. You have to know what the market is. You got to keep ahead of the loan programs and what's within the loan programs. The interest rates. Right now, FHA's rates are almost at 3.2.
Right.
Right now. You have to keep up on that. So, it's just like I said, I can't express education enough when it comes to these buyers. You have to stay ahead of the programs. You got to stay ahead of what's on the market. You got to stay ahead of what the market is doing, because those are the questions that these clients ask.
So it'd be good to basically go out and just introduce yourself to these lenders, build a team. So when you get your clients, it's no searching for a lender. You got your go-tos, and you know how they work, and you know how fast they work or how accurate they are with everything that they do.
Absolutely. Okay. I have a lender that'll answer his phone on Sunday.
He's trying to get to the money.
he will answer his phone on Sunday and hey Justin, how you doing?
Right.
I'm good.
See, that's what's up right there.
I got a client for you, and he will actually call that client. Now, he may not physically pull credit on that day, but he will reach out to the client.
Talk to him, send him a link.
And talk to exactly.
Send that link. Look, go on here.
Then go ahead and apply for this.
Right. I'll get with you on Monday. Let's just get this going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Man, listen. You dropped some gems, dropped some knowledge, man. I appreciate it. I ain't gonna hold you all night. But man, I really appreciate you coming on, brother. And just being transparent.
Did you have me?
Yeah, for sure, man. You know I had to have you. I told you that, man. It was only a matter of time. Just had to, get around to the real estate thing. What'd you say?
I'm not necessarily good in front of the camera, but I've been on camera, but then I always tense up because I like to say that I'm a modest person. I like to just be behind the scenes of everything.
I know.
Let me just do the work. Let me set you up for greatness. You ain't got to put me out there, but just let me set you up for greatness. And I tell a lot of my friends, like, don't even tell them that I told you that. Just do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you having me on the show. This was an ego booster for me in this moment. I have a lot of my friends that are actually watching right now, so they're texting me saying, "I see you."
Hey, and I appreciate everybody tuning in, for real, just showing that support, man. We need it. Absolutely. Get the value that's given. You know him, but you may have picked up a couple tips that he hadn't told you before. Share that with somebody. Share the show. Tell them about the show. Tell them about Justin. Oh, how can people reach out to you, man, if they want to work with you?
Hey, JustinDHarper.com.
There you go. And
I tell everybody, Google me.
JustinDHarper.com.
No, you can reach me at JustinDHarperLV@gmail, JustinDHarper.com. Like I said, I'm on pretty much every social media outlet. Facebook, Justin D. Harper. That's the name that you just need to embed in your mind. Justin D. Harper. He is number one on the Google chain when it comes to the Google search against the basketball player. NBA
That's true, because I just looked and you were the first one. That's That's dope. And I'm gonna have all your links in the description down below too at the end of the show on the replay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna chop this show up too, send it out to you, man. Repost and
I will.
More business and all that. You know what I mean?
All right, thank you. Hey, I can always use business.
Hey, I know.
I'm too busy to help a client. Absolutely.
Right. Well, you know, if I know somebody that's out there, I'll send them your way. You already know.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
No doubt. You know, it's all love.
This is an honor, KoolKard.
Yes, sir. We go way back. Yes, yeah. You know you family, man. So I had to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, y'all. Everybody's tuning in. Really appreciate it, man. Like I said, share the show. Tell a friend. Here every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, or wherever you are. Mountain Time. I don't even know what time that would be, but I'm here every Tuesday. Just dropping the value, man. Trying to pull value out of my guests, giving it to you, put it in your tool belt. You take it and do what you do with it, man. Go be great. Until next time, we out. Take us out.
Take care, everybody.
Yes, sir.